What happens when glamour collides with global uncertainty? When the flash of cameras cuts through the shadow of a lingering pandemic, in the heart of Paris, a city that breathes fashion and art. Two of the world's most recognizable sisters, Kim Kardashian and Kourtney Kardashian, arrived at Paris Fashion Week, carrying not only their designer gowns, but also the weight of an anxious world, still reckoning with invisible fears. It was not just another star-studded runway show. It was a performance unfolding against a backdrop of hesitation, whispers of risk, and the question no one dared to ask out loud: should the spectacle of fashion still thrive in the shadow of pandemic worries? Paris Fashion Week, renowned for its opulence and for setting global trends, had never felt quite like this. The city's boulevards, still adorned with timeless architecture and filled with the intoxicating hum of couture houses, seemed different, more cautious, more measured. Attendees lined the streets, yet there was a nervous energy in the air, as if the collective consciousness of the crowd knew that extravagance came with an unspoken cost. And at the center of this tension, Kim Kardashian and Kourtney Kardashian made their entrance, faces glowing beneath the dimming Parisian sky, embodying both resilience and controversy in equal measure. The cameras clicked furiously, flashes illuminating the polished facade of luxury. The world had seen Kim and Kourtney grace countless red carpets before, but this one carried heavier symbolism. Every step, every glance, every outfit they unveiled spoke volumes, not just about personal style, but about defiance, determination, and the ability of celebrity to distract from reality, if only for a moment. As the sisters walked into Paris Fashion Week, they carried an aura of confidence, but also the burden of being symbols of survival, glamour, and even criticism. In a time when millions questioned whether such gatherings should even exist, the air outside the venue was thick with contrasts. On one side, die-hard fans pressed against barriers, their masks slipping as they shouted the names Kim and Kourtney. On the other side, critics and commentators typed rapidly, framing the event through the lens of global unease. For every admirer celebrating their fearless attendance, there was a skeptic asking why the Kardashians in particular were risking visibility at Paris Fashion Week amid pandemic worries. But perhaps that was the essence of their presence provocation. To appear in Paris was not only a fashion statement, it was a statement of relevance, one that demanded the world's attention, for better or worse, as the narrator following them through the lens of documentary truth. I watched the way Kim Kardashian navigated the crowd. She moved with precision, her gown glistening under the harsh light of flashbulbs. There was something deliberate about her appearance, as though she knew the spectacle wasn't just about fabric and stitching, it was about resilience. Her presence in Paris Fashion Week amid pandemic concerns was almost cinematic, a symbol of how celebrity culture refuses to bow. Even when the world teeters on uncertainty, Kourtney Kardashian by her side offered a quieter but no less striking counterpoint. Where Kim radiated confidence with every calculated pose, Kourtney exuded restraint. Her expression, a subtle reminder of the reality everyone tried to ignore. Together, the sisters became a dual portrait of modern fame. Bold and cautious, glamorous yet scrutinized. Inside the grand halls of Paris, the show commenced. Fashion Week had always been an arena where designers battled for the spotlight, where collections were unveiled with dramatic flair. But this year, the runway carried something intangible. The pandemic had redefined beauty and survival, merging them into a new narrative. Guests whispered through their masks, their muffled voices blending with the rhythmic sound of heels striking the catwalk. Kim and Kourtney Kardashian sat front row, their presence impossible to overlook. Cameras lingered on them longer than on the models, as if the true show was not the couture on stage but the Kardashian sisters themselves. As the evening unfolded, the tension between extravagance and caution deepened. Designers unveiled gowns dripping with sequins, garments stitched to perfection, and accessories that glittered like treasures. Yet beneath it all was an unmistakable awareness. The world outside was still fragile. Watching Kim and Kourtney absorb the spectacle was like observing two parallel stories. To the fashion faithful, their attendance meant normalcy, proof that glamour survived. To others, it was a troubling reminder of disparity. The contrast between luxurious Paris fashion, week, and the lingering pandemic worries of those who could never afford such indulgence, documenting the sisters in this atmosphere felt surreal. Kim Kardashian leaned in to whisper to Kourtney, the glimmer of her diamond earrings catching the spotlight. The gesture was ordinary, sisterly, yet monumental in context. Here were two women who had been under public scrutiny for more than a decade, now navigating Paris not just as celebrities but as embodiments of resilience in a world still uncertain. They were symbols, whether they asked to be or not, and their every move rippled through media headlines across the globe. I followed them beyond the show, into the aftermath, where interviews awaited and reporters clamored for quotes. "How does it feel to be at Paris Fashion Week amid pandemic worries?" one asked. Kim, practiced in the art of public response, offered words of gratitude for designers, admiration for Paris, and an acknowledgement of the world's struggles. Her tone was polished, respectful, yet unshaken. Kourtney, quieter, kept her answers brief, her eyes betraying a level of contemplation that Kim's media polish concealed. This interplay between them, the outspoken and the reserved, was itself a performance, a balance that kept their narrative compelling. The night bled into after-parties and gatherings, where the city's elite mingled beneath chandeliers. Paris shimmered, as it always had, but for the documentary eye, the sparkle was layered with complexity. Every laughter-filled toast, every celebratory photo felt like both an act of defiance and a delicate gamble. Kim and Kourtney Kardashian, still dressed in couture, became the most photographed figures of the night, their images flooding timelines across the world. Some celebrated them as icons who kept the spirit of fashion alive. Others condemned them as symbols of extravagance in times of hardship. The dichotomy was sharp, and it was this very sharpness that made their presence unforgettable. Walking through the Paris streets after midnight, the echoes of the event lingered. The cobblestones glistened with rain, reflecting the city lights as if the night itself wore sequins. Behind the facade of glamour, questions remained. Would Paris Fashion Week, amid pandemic worries, be remembered as a turning point in how we define necessity and indulgence? Would Kim and Kourtney Kardashian's attendance be framed as bravery, recklessness, or simply inevitability in a culture that thrives on spectacle? These questions, unanswered, hung in the night air like perfume impossible to ignore, lingering long after the sisters had retreated to their hotel. What struck me most was the paradox of the moment. Paris Fashion Week had always been about more than clothes. It was about identity, status, and influence. Yet this year, with Kim and Kourtney Kardashian at its epicenter, it became about survival of industries, of reputations, of the very idea of normalcy. The sisters did not just attend, they defined the narrative. Their presence was an act of storytelling in itself, a reminder that even amid uncertainty, the world still craves icons, still craves beauty, still craves the distraction of celebrity. As dawn approached, Paris felt quieter, as if the city itself was exhaling after the night's performance. The lingering pandemic worries did not vanish with the click of a camera or the shimmer of couture. They remained ever present, just outside the glow of the spotlight. Yet in those brief hours, Kim and Kourtney Kardashian had shown the world something raw, that fame and fashion continue regardless of circumstance, and whether one viewed that as defiance or denial. The truth was undeniable. The Kardashian sisters had turned Paris Fashion Week into more than a fashion spectacle. They had transformed it into a mirror, reflecting the contradictions of our times. In the end, the documentary lens captures not just the fabric or the gowns, but the story beneath them. Paris Fashion Week, amid pandemic worries, was not simply about who wore what, but about who dared to show up, who dared to be seen. Kim Kardashian and Kourtney Kardashian did more than face the cameras. They faced a world divided between admiration and skepticism. And that, more than any glittering gown, may be their most unforgettable statement.